Today's Good Growth discussion is all about the convergence of technology, connecting energy, buildings, and transport, and how that can be a lever for the transition to a low carbon and a bright future.
So the chance to integrate solar generation with vertical buildings, for example, the opportunity to run public transport and alternative transport modes off solar energy to maximise our opportunities to move around in a more efficient way is really exciting. Sitting here waiting for the politicians to get on board, if you like, is probably not going to be the solution. I think we're seeing that tipping point happening now where, for example, it's becoming cheaper for bus operators to actually run electric buses than it is to continue to purchase new diesel buses, for example, because of the long-term running costs. So if we take that whole-of-life approach, we're seeing that tipping point starting now. So the opportunity to move to more electric, renewable energy focused modes of transport, I think is a huge opportunity.
You know, there's initial cost to put in solar and buy an EV, but the price parity is actually coming down. You can pretty much buy some electric cars now at an equivalent price of a fossil dinosaur or a liquid dinosaur powered vehicle. So businesses and individuals should be acting now and adopting this technology. If we don't, as a business, then we're actually going to be, dare I say it, crapping on our marketplace.
What we need is leadership from central government for measurement of embodied and operational carbon at the consenting stage. The sector is supportive. We need to, as a group, continue to advocate for this. My colleague Jennifer Whittle was a great, brilliant advocator to central government on pushing for this. Most of the world is moving to this or has done it decades earlier than us. I think the other really exciting thing I see happening is the integration of buildings and communities together. What I mean the potential to share renewables across buildings in a community, really intelligent, more intelligence around demand and flexible response, great technological innovations. And the third is thinking cohesively about the built environment and transport. You know, and we know that lower carbon buildings can deliver $147 billion in uplift and growth by 2050, and that needs to be our collective narrative. We really need to stop doing really dumb stuff. We have a gas crisis. We're putting gas into homes every single month while industrial providers cannot get enough gas and they're shutting down and firing people. Thousands of people have been fired already. Thousands more are at risk when we're putting gas into homes and building new build homes and buildings, which is more expensive, more unhealthy.
I suppose, like from a site selection point of view, location of that site is very important. It's actually one of the first things that come to our client's mind, and that is vicinity to transport hubs, close to these rapid transit busways that come from Albany, etc. Train stations. We see inquiries coming in from developers that are interested in land parcels close to the CRL stations, all of that really useful stuff. And so that's connectivity, and being able to connect via public transport is hugely valuable. Using technology to the advantage of being able to be really connected, and we see this in industrial as well, that being able to utilize solar and then also feeding that back into the network, and I suppose positioning yourself or the business to being able to take that next leap when that's available is becoming quite important as well.
we forget that there is a lot of infrastructure that has to happen up front to enable the downstream use of this. And we blindly go about our business thinking, well, diesel ferries, for example, are easy. But there was an awful lot of infrastructure that was put in place to enable them in the first place. But that was a while ago. It was a sunk cost now, and we've forgotten about it. And so when we look at electric ferries, for example, we forget that the sunk cost to enable diesel happened a long time ago. And we're complaining now, oh, look, electric ferries cost so much. Well, now we're facing the sunk cost for that.
Well, we have close to 50% of our peak load is how we heat our buildings and our homes and how we heat our hot water. And we're doing next to nothing to focus on how we can do those more efficiently, right? Yeah. So just there's demand flexibility that we could be running so that they don't, hot water cylinders don't turn on at peak loads. We could save millions of dollars through that. We looked at hot water heat pumps, and we found that if we can get hot water heat pumps and heat pumps, I should say, to replace resistant heaters, that we can save Kiwis $1.5 billion every year. We can deliver a 6 to 10% reduction in electricity demand, massively reducing, saving billions of dollars of generation that we need to create. And we can save around 40% of our current gas production.
Distributed generation is a must. We've got to do it. There's all sorts of reasons why we should be doing it. Cost, resilience. And it is starting to happen now. We're seeing a lot of solar farms. We work with about 160 out of the total 180 solar installers around New Zealand. And we're seeing massive growth in that space. And that distributed does help. So if there's a climatic event and the power's out, if you've got your own batteries or your car plugged into your house, you can power your house for a week at a time. So you can, keep your food. You can actually help your neighbours. So from a resilience point of view, it's fundamentally important that we do it. By incentivising people to charge their cars, off-peak means that you can pull that problem down, the two peaks. And it's not just cars. It could be your washing machine. I'd take advantage of that now. And the optimum is actually to have a flat load 24 hours a day, and you can pretty much do it if you're incentivized to do it. If you've got an anytime price, doesn't matter when you plug your car in as a consumer.
To get this system smartness, we need data, right? And increasingly around the world, networks are making this data, real-time data available. At the moment, even though we've got about 92% penetration of smart meters in residential buildings, that data's locked up, isn't it? Essentially by the retailers and therefore the gentailers. How do we get that open so that everybody can tap into the intelligence of the system?
You're right. The meter companies and in particular the electricity retailers try and hold on to that data, because data is power. But we as consumers, you can go, any one of us here can go to your electricity retailer and say, give me my half-hour data, You're entitled to it. And with that data, you can actually make informed decisions.
But the opportunity that an EV fleet brings, and it's not just public transport, but it's private vehicles as well, is that opportunity to store power in the house through batteries. If you've got solar panels, well, your car is a small battery, essentially. And if you've got a fully charged battery at peak time, there's opportunities to push some of that power back into the grid from your car. So rather than the battery in your house that you may have stored power from your solar panel, your car can do that. And it's enabling those opportunities and systems to happen so that you can utilise that power at a peak time. I was recently talking to a colleague in Sydney who whipped out his phone and said, well, my house is connected to the wholesale electricity market. And my car right now is sitting in the garage putting power back into the grid, and I'm making 38 cents a kilowatt hour on it. So today I should make a profit of about $60. And I'm going, why can't I do that?
We've clearly got a need to reduce carbon, but the sharp focus on that comes with risk. Every time we set a purpose, the danger is we slip away from thinking about the consequences that happen when we pursue that purpose. And we're so busy with that purpose that other things happen along the side. Your point about those surveys and where it shifted to young people, one of the other things in the UK where there's been a big shift is in young people is a fear of the jobs in the future and the consequences of AI, which brings massive opportunities to this sector. The things we can do with that, particularly around health, are huge. And we've got, I think in the UK, the first time that life expectancy has gone down since records began, average life expectancy. So now, despite all these things that we're doing and can do, that is not going well. Inequality, as well as the issues we're talking about, is through the roof, not just income and wealth inequality, although that's scary. Also, gender inequality is starting to slip backwards in parts of the world. And so if we don't, at the same time as we're maintaining our focus on we need to do this, we want a low carbon, high methane economy. We don't, obviously, So we need to keep those other factors in the thinking as we go down this. So whatever we're doing around measurement has to be more than purpose. We've always had problems with housing generally, and who lives where and how, and what kind of housing accessibility do we have enough, and is it any good? So this has to be across all housing types, and then that, because it might be affordable for some, but it's not affordable for everybody. And if you don't deal with that, we're just going to bring new technology which will widen inequality a little bit more. And most new technology has been very good at actually widening inequality. In the UK, we're still increasingly concerned about the weight of cars, the damage that's doing to the roads. That's not been paid for after the event because no one's got any money to fix that. So all of us pay for that a little bit. Some households can afford to pay for that more than others. And you've created a bit more inequality. We've known about some of these things. When you got to the solution is first of all to sit back and think about what these other consequences might be a little bit more rigorously. We're not going to do that in our own rooms because we're not very good at thinking about bad things that will happen. Human beings are optimistic. So we have to have a framework which is asking other people and bringing in other research to see what might those other consequences be. I look back in my lifetime, the amount of water that we use per household keeps going up massively. But it's okay now because it's greyer. Instead of saying, well, hang on, we should have used less in the first place. On every single one of these factors, we're building in ways to have more of whatever it is, but actually with some other technology that can help it be better somehow. And that other technology is largely capital intensive, where the extraction of that and the labour issues within the manufacturer, who actually owns that capital infrastructure and where the returns of that going, are widening inequality. So if you wanted to look at a social return on that investment, then reducing has got to be as much of that. In London, lots of people don't have a private car. It's quite normal of all income groups, because why would you have a private car? But generally, if you say, actually, why are we having a conversation about plugging a car in instead of having a conversation about not having a car? So I just wanted to step back a second for that and think social return means looking at that holistic return. A government would do that when it looks at what it would call cost-benefit analysis. It couldn't do anything or shouldn't be doing anything without looking at those wider distributive effects.